guys, Meredith Gorman here, and are you still not subscribed to Matt's channel? Well, if you're not, hit the subscribe button because he's giving out free picks each and every week. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
UFC Mexico, they are back. I expect a wild crowd over their fun weekend over in Mexico. Some of the best fans out there. We got a fun card, fairly top heavy. Got a few good fights, and then it kind of drops off a ton here. But like always, I'll be breaking down the main card, provide free picks, leans, price talk, and more. Systemsportscapping.com or link.me/systemcapping for client opportunities, resume, client comments, records, and much more. If you're watching on YouTube, please like the video. Or if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please rate and share. It is much appreciated. Let's do a UFC 298 recap. Great card for myself and clients, going 5-0. Rare 3 2-fight parlays cashed on the night. Really like Dean Gary and Whitaker to get the job done. Got that at plus money, plus 108, plus 110 around the market. Gary got the job done by decision. Not too impressed. Did enough though. You know, Neil obviously dangerous guy on the feet with that power. So, you know, Gary was able to, you know, kind of dance around, if you want to say that. Use his distance well, like I kind of expect to happen. You know, the Whitaker and Costa fight, unbelievable, right? Whitaker and Costa fight, great fight. Fight of the night, in my opinion. We kind of expected that, right? Kind of expect these two to have a good fight. Whitaker did enough. You know, Costa surprisingly, you know, put up a pretty good fight. I thought he did a little better than expected, but Whitaker, great game plan. Great game plan for Whitaker. Worked that leg well. Obviously got in and out. And, you know, it's just, I mentioned in the video last week, guys, Costa's defense is just poor. It's very bad, right? And it showed there. He always has that chance with his flashy striking. Nice leg, nice spinning heel kick that he landed on Whitaker late in that first round, which may have stolen the round. I know some judges gave him 30-27 Whitaker. I thought he won 29-28, won the last two rounds as Costa kind of faded late. Also was all over the Merab and Henry Cejudo fight to go over 2.5 rounds and the distance. That's probably my favorite play on the card. But you have to be creative and put it with 2-fight parlay due to the pricing, right? So I was able to improve that price. We had the over in the Gary and Neil 1.5 rounds. We also had the fight to go the distance with Neil and Gary. That was at like even money. Great price there on that fight. We also was on Topuria right in the main event. Topuria in the main event was kind of like a must bet. Like, even though I didn't have a full unit on it, I had to bet Topuria. Loved his confidence going into the fight. Loving the change of guard situation there. Love what I see from Topuria and just how confident he was, right? And like I mentioned, Volk, I told you guys in the video last week, you know, Volk at 35 now. The money, right? He's getting a lot of money through not even his fighting. It's not that. It's outside of the ring, right? The YouTube channel, the Prime contract. It's just distraction. There's more distraction. Topuria, zero distractions. Building up, trying to be that champion, right? The $3 as well. Just had a trial. That KO. When you come off a KO at that age, it's just something seems to be different in most fighters. Right? Volk is Volk, right? Still looked good in the first round. Some gave him the first round that he won, but I expected Topuria to find his chin, and when he did, you can tell, you know, Volk's chin is kind of gone. It's faded. It's not the same anymore after that. So, and now it won't be. I hope that Volk takes time off, guys. I hope he really does. Take some time off, you know, and come back strong. And, you know, I do think he should get another title shot due to him being one of the best ever to fight. So we'll see what happens there. Excited for Topuria, excited for the Topuria era, and, you know, just can't wait to see a fight card in Spain. How awesome would that be? Okay, let's do a little current run update. We're on a nice run right now, guys. Nice run. 12-1, all sports run right now. 5-0 UFC card, 5-1 PGA props last week, 2-0 NHL market. this week. 25-7, 77% free PGA plays over a year now, guys. If you're not following the short videos, I do short videos every other week. Every other week, guys. Not every, can't do it every week for you guys. I already give a bunch of free plays here on UFC, obviously during the NFL season. No free play this week, but look out for those. I posted on TikTok, I posted on Instagram stories, and I posted on Twitter. Definitely the best. These are video documented, so definitely the best run. I don't follow a lot of these guys out here, to be honest, but I'm guessing it's the best run over a long term. This is over a year and a few days, right? A few months, so keep that in mind. Hopefully you guys are following me. Give me a follow on all social medias. It's system capping everywhere. Very easy to find. Let's get right into it, guys. Let's get right into this card. Shop around for best prices. Like I always say, have multiple books to get the best number out there. Mexico City. Of course, we have Moreno, right, on a Mexican card. Minus 275 versus Royval, plus 225. The rematch, right? This is a rematch, guys, from 2020. Moreno finished Royval in the first round, right? Both guys have improved, especially Royval. I do believe both fighters are a little different, right? A little different now, improved. Royval got his big shot this past year against Pantoja, right, for the title. Just wasn't able to get the job done. You know, when you look at this guy's record, it's 15-7. You wonder why he's in this position. You know, obviously the division's not incredibly deep. That's one reason. But he's exciting fighter, right? Got a lot of skills. Great submission game. Improved on the feet. Does have, you know, fairly good cardio. But I just think Moreno's pretty much better everywhere, guys. You know, his takedown defense always is a question with Royval, right? Terrible at best. At 40%. That's some of the worst in the UFC, guys. So I think Moreno could take advantage there, you know, against Pantoja. Pantoja showed he was able to just take Royval down at will. Just control him there, right? And I do think that what Moreno should do as well. You know, he didn't have to do that last time around, right? He finished him in the first round on the feet. Don't see that happening again. You know, Moreno does have the power on the feet. I think he does have a slight advantage on the feet as well. Just don't really see where Royval wins this fight. Right, Royval's coming in on short notice, guys. Keep in mind, this was supposed to be Moreno versus Alabazi. He pulled out. So in comes Royval. How was his training camp? Shorter training camp. Coming to altitude. Now, the altitude thing I don't really bring too much of a factor because I know Royval does fight in Denver. I think it's probably going to be a little different from Mexico altitude to Denver. I'm not an expert in that field. However, I do think it will be still a factor due to his shorter training camp and taking the fight on short notice. Right? You have to just favor Moreno here. I have a hard time seeing where Royval wins this fight unless somehow he catches him. If it goes the distance, it's going to be Moreno's takedowns that are going to be the difference, right? Royval only wins this fight in my eyes by catching him. Either with a shot on the feet or a submission. We know Royval has a sneaky submission game. Moreno's not an easy guy to submit though, right? So I just have a hard time seeing where Royval wins this fight. I have Moreno as just a better fighter all around. Fighting in front of his hometown as well. Should give him some extra motivation. If it is a close judges fight, expect to give to Moreno. Moreno's coming off that close loss to Pantoja as well, right? Both guys have lost their last fights against Pantoja. And that was a close to split decision. I do think Pantoja did enough to win that fight. But I expect Moreno to be back and as good as ever in this fight. He needs to win this fight. I think he should win this fight. I think he's the rightful favorite. Minus 275. It's hard to disagree. I have him as a 2-1 favorite in this. Maybe minus 250 if you want to argue a little bit here. But shop around. Maybe you can get a better price out there. But not a terrible price. Not a price I can bet straight up. But definitely could be a 2-fight parlay piece for me. And if you look at, it's obviously a 5-round fight. Difficult to call an outcome. If I do see a finish, I think it'll be a little later in the fight, maybe middle of the fight. So I actually would lean a finish in this fight for Moreno if you want to improve the price. You know, we've seen Royval go 5 rounds before. Just coming off the Pantoja loss, I went 5 rounds. Keep in mind, though, we could see Royval fade in this fight due to the shorter training camp, short notice, and of course the altitude. Play Moreno in some capacity this weekend. Co-main, another fun one. Rodriguez, minus 160 versus Ortega, plus 130. Another rematch, right? This one from last year where Ortega got hurt with a shoulder injury and ended up losing the fight due to that. He actually started well in that fight. Looked good, looked promising in the first round. And then that shoulder injury, Rodriguez just finished the fight with the TKO finish. I do believe we are seeing some decent value at this price on Ortega. However, few concerns coming off the injury, not fighting for over a year now as well. Rodriguez has 2 fights since then, guys. Right? Beating a tough Josh Emmett, and of course losing to Volk in a war. Ortega was actually, the favorite in that first fight, if you recall. Remember that. Now it's flipped due to the long layoff, coming off an injury, which I do understand. Right? Rodriguez is a more active fighter, been in the bigger fights. That's something to keep in mind. You're taking a bit of a chance if you want to back Ortega here at plus 130 due to the unknowns on how he's going to come back. I get it. If you're going to play him. Right? Due to the pricing. But you're taking that chance of not knowing how he's going to look. He hasn't been in that big competitive fight for almost a year and a half now, guys. Rodriguez has. Rodriguez fighting in front of his home fans. Yes, Ortega is Mexican as well, but, born in California, more American, I would put him, than Mexican. I do think he's going to have Mexican fans there, but probably a little more to Rodriguez's side. So that's something also worth mentioning. Don't love the price at minus 160 on Rodriguez. I'm going to lean Rodriguez here. I do think Rodriguez is more dangerous on the feet. Ortega's only path to win this fight is, in my eyes, his wrestling. I think he should attack Rodriguez, get him down to the ground, and possibly maybe find a submission. We know how good Ortega's submission game is. Not really known for its wrestling. He averages under 1 takedown per fight, guys. It's not like he's some sort of great wrestler, but Rodriguez's takedown defense is not good. Right? It's not good. What, mid-50s? So that's something to keep in mind here. Right? I do think Ortega can hang with him on the feet, Rodriguez, but I think Rodriguez is a better striker, more crafty, could hurt Ortega on the feet. We know Ortega doesn't get finished on the feet. Very durable. Very durable fighter. But if it goes 5 rounds, Rodriguez wins by decision. Flashier shots on the feet. The question is going to be, how much is Ortega going to commit to the wrestling? That's going to be the big question. Is he going to want to just wrestle, make this boring, win that way? Tough to say, right? So I'm very excited to see how this fight goes. Not very excited to bet it. From a line standpoint, yes, value with Ortega at plus 130, but you're taking that chance. You're taking that chance on how he comes back and how he looks after the injury, long layoff. I don't like doing that. I don't like taking chances with a small price. Now, if you're giving me plus 200, plus 300, I'm okay taking chances and betting it for a smaller unit. Right? It's just plus 130, not enough meat on the bone, as they would say. Right? So lean's going to be Rodriguez. This fight probably won't make my betting card at all. Keep in mind, it's a 5-round fight, non-title fight. Keep that in mind, guys. Right, so we could see a finish in this fight. If this was a 3-round fight, I would say, yeah, most likely decision. But 5-round fight, someone could fade late in this fight. Obviously, the altitude as well. Keep in mind. I lean the fight not to go the distance, but both guys are durable enough for it to go the distance. I'm not going to have any action personally for clients on this fight. Just excited to watch it. Could go either way. Let's see how Ortega bounced back off the injury and the long layoff. Zellhuber minus 275 versus Prado plus 225. Zellhuber, a young prospect out of Mexico with back-to-back wins after losing his first fight in the UFC. Prado fights out of Argentina, guys. Fights out of Argentina. Has power in his hand. That's where Zellhuber is going to have to be careful. 1-on-1 in the UFC. No easy fights for Prado either, right? Started his career with Jamie Malarkey. Tough, scrappy guy to fight. In his debut, he lost that fight. Coming off a TKO round 1 finish, though, versus Azatar. this fight for Zellhuber is all about avoiding the power from Prado, right? I think Zellhuber is the more quicker guy on the feet, the better striker, more durable on the feet, can move a little better. He has a reach and grappling advantage as well. Now, this price I don't agree with. I do think Zellhuber should be the favorite, obviously fighting at home in front of his home fans. Now, keep in mind, for a young fighter, that's not always a good thing, right? There's pressure that comes with that. So it's very difficult to predict how a fighter is going to handle the pressure. That's very difficult to predict. What I can't predict is Zellhuber, like I mentioned, is the better all-around fighter in my eyes. Prado does have that scary power, though, to hurt Zellhuber on the feet. We've seen Zellhuber rocked before. So I'm going to lean Zellhuber in this fight with concern, though. And I hate the price. This price is just terrible with a younger fighter fighting at home. And like I mentioned, sometimes may not be a good thing for a younger fighter fighting at home. Sometimes it could be great. Could pump him up, could get him going, fighting in front of his fans and probably, most likely, his family as well. But Prado's just coming in there with no concerns. Let me try to catch this guy on the chin and hurt him. Right? So definitely value at plus 2,225. Wouldn't call you crazy to put a small unit on Prado. Even though I do think Zellhuber is the better fighter with the more promise in the UFC. We got, two fairly young guys going at it. Prado with that power on the feet, which can be concerning for Zellhuber. Hate the price. Like Zellhuber as a fighter. I do think he gets it done here, with a little concern that Prado could catch his chin and cash at that big underdog price. Rosa Jr. is back, minus 250 versus Turcios plus 200. Minus 250, 19-year-old fighter. Hate it. However, I do think it's a good matchup against Turcios. Turcios is also a young fighter as well. Rosa Jr. opened up at like minus 180, minus 200, guys. People are betting him. I get it here. Again, with some concern. When you're laying a price like this, you want to not have many concerns, if any at all. But we do have some concerns, right? We've seen when Rosa Jr. stepped out competition, he lost the fight. He gassed in that fight, which is concerning, especially at altitude. Turcios is not going to gas. He has great cardio. I actually give Turcios the cardio advantage. Right? And this is at altitude. How's Rosa going to look when this get fight later when he's mainly trying to wrestle and grapple? We know what Rosa Jr. wants to do, and we know where he has the advantage. One of the best grapplers at his age. One of probably the best grapplers already in the division. Right, so he's going to want to get Turcios down, and guess what? Turcios has terrible takedown defense at 46%, guys. Almost as bad as Royval. 46% won't cut it. And what does Rosa Jr. do? Get the fight down to the ground, looks for submission. So I love the matchup for him. Right? I probably will have some action in some way on Rosa Jr. this weekend. But again, the couple concerns that he's 19 years old, guys. What were you doing at 19 years old? Right? So think about that. But again, you can fire back that with Torres is young as well, right? 3-4 fights in the UFC, just coming off a UFC Ultimate Fighter win. So it's not like, Turcios is some old veteran that's going to take advantage of Rosa Jr.'s inexperience. No. That's not the concern. So that's why I mentioned that the matchup is good for Rosa Jr. to win the fight. I do think he wins the fight. A little tough to call an outcome. If you want to improve the price, maybe take a finish. Even though we don't really see Turcios get finished. He's very durable, doesn't get submitted. So tough to call an outcome, to be honest. Maybe Rosa Jr. could be a 2-fight parlay piece for you this weekend. Just the pricing isn't great. That 19-year-old thing just at the back of my head. Fighting at home, I think actually helps him. Just how he fights, a lot of energy. Don't think, again, it's hard to predict the pressure. I can't read the guy's mind. I don't know how it's going to affect him fighting at home. But just from looking at a standpoint from his attitude, I do think it's going to help him. So Rose Jr. is the play. I do think the matchup's great for him, and like I mentioned, that takedown defense will be a factor in this fight. Your Gui, minus 550. Yes, I did screw up the name. Versus Hughes plus 400. Wow. Yeah, this card goes downhill from here, guys. Just to let you know. And this fight, headlines that going downhill from here. I get it. Mexican women fighter. Let's get her on the main card. Let's try to build her up, right? 2-1 in the UFC. Coming off a loss to Denise Gomes by TKO. It's a bit concerning. Hughes, you don't have to really worry about getting a TKO finish. Sneaky good ground and pound finish, possibly. She's 3-4 in the UFC for Hughes. Actually has won 3 of her last 4 fights. That's worth mentioning and notable. And why? I guess there's some value at plus 400. She had a decent win over Elise Reed. Elise Reed's terrible takedown defense, so that's how she was able to get there. And, Hughes has been wrestling more in her fights. Decent on the feet, but I do think the Mexican fighter will be the much better striker in this matchup. But Hughes could possibly get this fight down to the ground, averaging over 1 takedown per fight. Now, the Mexican fighter, on paper, it's 100% takedown defense, but I don't think only one person tried to take her down in her fights. All her fights have been on the feet from what I've seen on tape. I can never lay minus 550 in any women's MMA fight unless your name is Amanda Nunes or something along those lines. You just can't do it. Right? I wouldn't call you crazy to put a small unit on Hughes at plus 400. Even though I do think the Mexican fighters can't say better everywhere. I think Hughes is actually a better wrestler. But the Mexican fighter is going to have the big advantage on the feet. Could hurt Hughes on the feet as well. So keep that in mind here. But intriguing at this price. Definitely intriguing for a woman on a 3 out of 4 win streak. I think she has some value at plus 400. Am I going to bet it? Probably not. Right? I do think the Mexican fighter, like I mentioned, that advantage on the feet, fighting at home, trying to build her up, giving her a matchup here. I do think she probably finds a way to get it done, but I am going to have no bet at all at this price. It's just way too crazy of a price for me to even think of. And if I had to bet this fight, it would be plus 400 Hughes for a very small unit, just due to the pricing. There's no other way. But at the end of the day, keep in mind there's a reason why she's plus 400, and it's going to be the striking advantage from the Mexican fighter. And then obviously, if Hughes tries to wrestle, she could gas in this fight. It's at altitude. She's not used to fighting up there. Keep that in mind, guys. Torres minus 175 versus Duncan plus 150. I would say, I guess, low chance this fight goes all 3 rounds. Torres doesn't know what a decision is, right? 9 straight fights finished in the first round, guys, for Torres, with 2 losses in there, keep in mind. Back-to-back finishes in the UFC versus Camacho and who's an old faded vet now, right? And then Motto, who also likes to stand and bag, try to finish fights. Torres is on a 5-fight win streak, guys. Duncan, 4-fight win streak. Good fight to open up the main card. I'm actually kind of intrigued with this fight. I do believe Duncan will have a cardio advantage here. We just haven't seen it from Torres. We have not seen him out of the first round. We don't know if this fight goes late, right? Duncan can bring fights to later in the fight, right? 3 of the last 4 fights have been decisions. He has good cardio. Now, altitude always a factor. Don't know how it's going to play and affect him. We don't know that. So keep that in mind here. But if this fight gets in the second, third round, favor Duncan. And that's why I think there's some value here at plus 150. He's going to have to avoid the early finish, right? The first round, second round finish from Torres. Because it's going to be live throughout the fight. If Duncan does not fight smart and tries to stand and bang with him, bad decision. But if he wrestles, where he's going to have a wrestling advantage, Duncan has been wrestling a lot more in his fights as of late. I do think he can get this fight down to the ground and maybe exploit him there. However, if he continues to use that game plan, he could possibly tire out. But, like I mentioned, Torres, we do not see him later in fights. So it may not affect him as much, Duncan. Right? It may actually favor him because Torres obviously will be gassed as well, trying to wrestle and get up from the ground. I got to take the value here on Duncan plus 150. I know Torres fighting at home. It's not going to make my betting card, but for video purpose, give me the plus money with Duncan. Like what I see more of him, he's going to have a wrestling advantage here, strength advantage. He's just going to have to avoid that power on the feet. And you don't really know how he's going to go into the fight from a game plan mindset. But it should be to wrestle. And it should be to make it a grind out type of fight, not stand and bang with Torres, who can knock you out at any point. So lean Duncan here, plus 150 due to the pricing. Not going to get my money or clients. That will do it, guys. That will do it. Always fun times in Mexico. Looking forward to this card. We got some big cards coming up, guys. Can't wait. UFC 299, Miami next month. And then, of course, UFC 300 in April. Can't wait for that. I'll be here every week like normal. I'll be releasing a golf video on the weekend, just, talking about the golf market and how to bet it, how to beat it long term. So look out for that. And like I always say, guys, bet smart and know your limits. Enjoy this card.